So Genius Metals was born out of a spinco. Our CEO, Mr. Guy Goulet, 3 years ago took over a company called Genius Properties, which he later used to pursue an opportunity in Peru. So in October 2019, Genius Properties became Cerro de Pasco Resources, ticker CDPR, and as part of this transaction, the Canadian assets that were held within Genius Properties were spun off in an entity called Genius Metals. From there, we have made acquisitions, we've rolled in some project, we've generated some project as well. This is a typical cautionary statement as required by regulators. So if we look at the board of directors, as Chen mentioned, our CEO has led multiple successful ventures in the past. I don't want to spend too much time as time is quite limited in that presentation, but I strongly encourage you to either take a look at our website, come visit us at our booth. You're going to see that we have a very capable and proven board of management. So the key takeaway from that group is that together they hold more than 180 years of experience combined in the resource for public companies, resource companies. Together they have raised more than $250 million over the last 20 years, mostly through the TSX, the venture exchange. If we look at Genius Metals, the company is quite well funded. We have just raised $3 million back in July. One thing that's interesting as well is that we spend the bulk of our exploration budget in northern Quebec, where we have very good tax incentive. So for every dollar spent in eligible exploration expense, we get around 30 cents back. We can also share that to our shareholders through flow-through. It's a new company, so still relatively tight with only 47 million shares outstanding. So Genius has more than 10 properties, out of which we're currently actively exploring on 3. The main one being the SAKAMI property located in northern Quebec. So I'll go ahead with the SAKAMI property. The SAKAMI property is located in James Bay, which is a bit further up north than the Abitibi Gold District, which most of you might be familiar with. This is where most of the known gold mines in Quebec are located. If you look at the picture on the left, you're going to see those represent the greenstone belts in Abitibi, the greenstone, the volcanic rocks, where you would find most of the typical gold mineralization. So you see that in Abitibi, there's more than 38,000 drill holes that were performed, so explored thoroughly over the last 100-year plus, as opposed to James Bay, where there's only 1,800 drill holes performed. So in an environment 20 years ago, in an environment where gold was hovering around $500 an ounce, it didn't make much sense to go explore further up north. Obviously, exploration costs are a bit higher, but now Abitibi is getting more and more saturated, so it's tougher and tougher to make discoveries. So more and more you will see discoveries coming out of James Bay. One interesting is that the property is quite remote, but it's fairly accessible infrastructure-wise. So there is that road connecting Abitibi to the city of Radisson. It's a 600-kilometer road. The city of Radisson is where you would find most of the hydroelectrical dams. So now those hydroelectrical dams power cities like New York and Boston. So the road connecting there is accessible year-long. There's also the east-west Trans-Taiga Road, which is also accessible year-long. It crosses through our property boundaries, which you can see on the right. And so I mentioned the hydroelectrical dams are located there as well. So you see in yellow, those are the power lines. So if we were to make a significant discovery there, and we were to turn that into a mine, we would have access to some of the cheapest electricity in the world. So if we look specifically at James Bay, our property is composed of 588 claims. This represents over 300 square kilometer. In Abitibi, that would be basically an entire district, so a very large ground. And we're covering more than, one thing that's important to mention is the claims are 100% owned, so no NSR, they're clean in that sense. And our property in green, you see it covers more than more than 40 kilometers on the black line, which represent a geological contact between the geological sub-provinces of Opinaka and La Grande. So this contact is responsible for thousands of gold showings, thousands of gold occurrences, the main one being in the center of the screen, the Eleanor gold mine operated by Newmont. So Goldcorp put that into commercial production back in 2015. Goldcorp invested more than $2 billion at the time to put that into production. You can also see many successful exploration companies, successful companies along that fault, one of which you might be familiar with, Azimut, ticker AZM, which had quite a nice discovery in the recent 2 years. And one key takeaway, I think, to take from that map is that if you look at all those companies, they've achieved quite mature market capitalization. So most of them have market caps of over 25 million plus, as opposed to Genius Metals, which holds a market cap of 5 to 8 million. And the reason for that is that the claims that we own were basically privately owned for most of the last 20 years, which makes it very difficult to raise the big money to explore. So it was basically one prospector and one geologist that spent a week or two there a year, exploring once in a while. So keep in mind the contact. You remember the contact? So it goes. Contact goes up there. There's 300,000 ounces of gold up there, which is owned by Osisko Development. The contact goes through our property, and all the way down below, you will see La Pointe and La Pointe deposits, which are Quebec precious metals. They've always stated that their strategy was to wait to get 2 million ounces before disclosing a resource calculation, and resource calculation is expected from them at some point this year. So it's really in the last 2 years that we've put most of our exploration efforts on the property. We brought, not this summer, the one prior to that, we brought a crew of 10 people, so more than 10 people. We had the 3-4 geologists, 3-4 technicians, a helicopter pilot. So it's really when we brought the chopper on site, then we start having those exploration breakthrough there. So as part of this first campaign, we sent the group to prospect the entire ground. So we sent them to walk the entire ground. The geologists, every time there was an outcrop, they took some assays. So we took more than 2,000 assays out of this campaign, of which we sent more than 900 to the labs. Out of them, I think more than 10% return anomalous gold value. And as part of this exploration campaign, we've identified 3 main prospective areas. So we were so thrilled that summer that we sent the crew back just in time before the end of the season, before the snow arrived. We sent the same team again with a mechanical excavator. So we were able to strip the overburden there and perform some channel sampling. And just until recently, we have just completed our first drilling program on the property. The main takeaway from this drilling program is that we've identified a gold-bearing structure on our GoldenEye prospect. So there you see the geophysical anomaly. Unfortunately, we've just intercepted minerals, the gold-bearing structure on the last 2-3 holes, which are represented by the silver star. So we've intersected around 1.5 gram per ton over 6 meters. So as I mentioned earlier, the company is well funded, so we're working year-long. So the next steps will be for us this winter to come back with a prolonged DIP survey and able to follow that structure. And we're hopeful that we're somehow intercept wider intervals out of this. So I think my time is quite up, so I strongly encourage you to come visit us at our booth. And once again, thank you very much.